infectious diseases, research, medicine, health. Welcome to Outbreak News Interviews. And now, broadcasting from the Outbreak News Skylar Studios in beautiful West Central Florida, here is your host, microbiologist and editor of OutbreakNewsToday.com, Robert Harriman.
Hey everybody, this is Robert, and welcome to Outbreak News Interviews. Now, have you ever received a hospital bill and couldn't quite figure out how it could possibly be that expensive? How did they come up with this total? Well, I recently had a same-day surgery at a local hospital which had a price tag of $47,000. Now, fortunately for me, the negotiated price with the health insurance brought the cost down about $41,000. But how is this possible? And what's wrong with the system? Well, joining me to discuss this bizarre system is G. Keith Smith, MD. Dr. Smith is the medical director, CEO, and managing partner of the Surgery Center of Oklahoma. Dr. Smith, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, let me lay out the situation for you. Last month I had a laparoscopic cholecystectomy, or I had my gallbladder removed in a same-day surgery situation in a hospital. And I spent about, 5 or 6 hours at the hospital total. And I admit everything went very smoothly. Everybody was very professional. No complaints there. And then, of course, I got the bill, which was $47,000. And the negotiated price with my insurance brought the price down to somewhere in the ballpark of $6,000. Dr. Smith, if the value of the services provided was $47,000, how can they offer the service with a deal with the insurance for only $6,000? How is this even possible? How does this work?
Well, there are a lot of scams that are operational in this industry. The really good news for you is you're not one of those patients from whom the balance of that $47,000 was expected. Hospitals many times prey on patients that either don't have insurance or don't have the accepted type of insurance. And so, when a hospital renders a $47,000 bill to some patients, they actually mean it, and they'll bankrupt people to get that money. So the way this works is this: the hospital charges $47,000, knowing all the while they're going to accept $6,000 for payment, and then they'll claim that they lost $41,000, even though the $6,000 fee they're going to accept is pre-negotiated and agreed upon with one of these PPO carriers. Well, the hospital then will claim they lost $41,000, or that they provided $41,000 in care for which they were not compensated. And then this accounting fiction and write-off helps them maintain the myth of their not-for-profit status. There's another dirty side to this, in that these losses that the hospitals claim then get mailed to the cesspool in Washington, and these claims of uncompensated care then form the basis of kickbacks to hospitals called disproportionate share hospital payments. And so hospitals that claim these giant amounts of uncompensated care, the $41,000 write-off you're talking about, they are incentivized to report these fictitious losses by this arrangement that they have with Uncle Sam. So it's awful. There's another part of it, though, that's just as bad, if not worse, on the insurance side. The insurance company that you have, it's no different than any others, will ride into your employer, and they'll say, look, what we did, we rode in on our white horse, and we had this $47,000 bill from this price gouging hospital, and we, did what we do. We're so powerful in the marketplace that we were able to make them reduce that bill to $6,000. And so we've saved you $41,000. This is the famous discount that insurance companies claim that they provide. Keep in mind, this whole scam has been pre-negotiated. The discount is known to all the players, the insurance company and the hospital on the front end. But then the insurance company will charge your employer or whoever the employer group is a commission for the discount that they achieved. And they do that in various ways, but that commission can be as high as 28%.
Wow.
So if you think through that mathematically, the insurance companies actually want the most gigantic charge that they can possibly encounter from the get-go. I mean, I'm told it's not uncommon for an insurance company to ask a hospital, to double the charge on this or that. Do a brother a favor and double this charge, because then that maximizes the commission that they would charge on the savings achieved. And it's easy to get angry at the insurance companies and the hospitals, and people should be angry. But I also think it's really important to stay focused and understand that the real culprit in all of this is Washington, D.C., because all of these scams have been manufactured and maintained by the folks in D.C., and the cronies that they have enabled are the ones that are on the front lines, financially abusing people. But the real kind of mess in the background is the government. And I think that's important to remember, because as people begin to entertain the idea that government can solve what's wrong with healthcare, I think it's important for them to actually entertain the idea that it's the government that has caused all this mess. So that's kind of the long and short, I think, of what your bill is, what it represents, why it's what it is. Keep in mind, too, that the entire price for your gallbladder removal at my facility, just for everything, cash out the door, is less than $6,000.
I saw that.
And the insurance company that you have wants nothing to do with me. And the reason for that is, without a giant initial charge, they forego that opportunity to apply a savings or a discount to it and cash in on that with your employer. So that's kind of the long answer about, what your bill is.
It's interesting that your price for the same surgery is roughly the same, big coincidence, right?
Yeah, it's $5,865 on our website.
Right.
But what you're describing is a bill, I believe, that's just for the facility. My price is for everything.
That's
My
right.
price is for everything.
It doesn't include the surgeon and some other things. Now, I mean, I'm looking at it from a business aspect, and I'm glad we're doing this, because I'm sure I'm not the only one out there that didn't really understand it. But if I owned a car dealership and I was selling high-end cars at $47,000 a piece, and I decided to start selling for $6,000 a pop, by 5 o'clock I'd be out of business that day.
Yeah, these hospitals are making money, particularly the big hospital systems. But all of this is pre-negotiated. Keep in mind too that the analogy between selling cars and in the health industry is really not fair. The people who sell cars are honest businessmen compared to the folks who are in the hospital business.
Oh yeah, I wasn't saying they weren't. Yeah, I wasn't saying they weren't, but I'm just saying, I mean, economically it'd be impossible for a business to run like that.
That is correct.
Because if the true value was $47,000, you couldn't sell it for $6,000. So it's a question of what's the true value of the service.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head. The true value of the service is obviously not $47,000.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a car, and you look at the price, you can also go down the road to that car dealer's competitor and look at his price. And that's why That's why for those who are providing medical services to actually provide upfront pricing ultimately is the kryptonite for this sort of, for these bad guys. It's to have visible upfront pricing, and I think that's what you're getting at for people in healthcare really is an important step. But there are a lot of people who make a lot of money, who are in between the buyer and the seller of medical services, and the source of their revenue is the basis for that is the lack of visible pricing, and it's also a lack of competition. And once again, we have the government to blame with all of the regulations that primarily benefit the most giant hospital systems. They make it very difficult for underdogs to enter the marketplace.
So, Dr. Smith, for listeners that would like to check out the Surgery Center of Oklahoma, what's your website?
My website is surgerycenterok.com. I also encourage people to look at the Free Market Medical Association, which are like-minded folks all over the United States. That's fmma.org. This is a very powerful movement, the application of free market principles to this industry where the insanity of bills like you received are addressed with just honest upfront pricing. And it's a very important movement. It's growing. This is what I believe is the cure for what ails the U.S. healthcare system is actually the application of market principles. And the Free Market Medical Association, monitoring that website is the best way for people to keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening in healthcare that's good, that brings affordability and accessibility.
Excellent. I'll go ahead and share those links on the website. And I want to thank you, Dr. Smith, for your time and your thoughts on this question. I bet many people have asked when they received a bill.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
You bet. Take care.